So excited to have Ryan Castle here. I'll go into a brief introduction in a few moments. But again, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out to spend time working on yourself. It's so important for all of us to do that here at COO Forum. Again, excited to have Ryan here. A little bit about Ryan. Ryan, we met Ryan out in Indianapolis this past year at our conference, our member conference that we had coinciding with an industry week. And I don't know, was it the first day within the first hour, Ryan? I think we kicked off conversation. Does that feel right?
So,
Yeah, yeah. And then each day of the event, we just kept on hooking up with Ryan and chatting. And what his organization does is pretty cool, pretty awesome, I think. And they've been doing it since 2003, so they've really become the experts in their domain. And of course, Ryan's going to talk more about that. One of the common traits that I see throughout the COO Forum is that we are all very, very strapped for time. We don't have a lot of available time. We're pulled in a lot of directions. And sometimes it's due to really the quality and the strength of our management team that reports into us. And I think this is where really the insights from Ryan and his team and the work that they do is, how do you take that valuable resource and really optimize it so that the whole organization is moving forward at a more efficient pace. And ultimately, I think in a lot of what today's talk is going to be about is how we can free up more time for ourselves so that we're not off doing some of the things that maybe others should be doing in the organization, so that we can focus on our most valuable strategic initiatives for an organization. So Ryan's going to help us with that. But again, excited to have Ryan here, native of Auckland, New Zealand, via Colorado now. I'm going to let you tell that story. But again, thank you all for being here. And Ryan, I'm going to let you take it away.
yeah, thanks, Chuck. Appreciate the intro and welcome, everyone. Great to have you on the call today. Let's keep it interactive. Would love your guys' insights and feedback. I'll be getting you to put a few things in the chat. Feel free to use the react action if you think there's something I'm chatting about that kind of resonates. Give us a thumbs up. Go crazy with those love hearts for Valentine's Day. Appreciate some of those as well. As Chuck said, and as you can probably tell from the accent, I'm not from around here. But I've been living in the US for the last 2 years. I'm in Boulder, Colorado, for no particular reason. We could kind of go anywhere in the US, and decided, hey, maybe being somewhere kind of reasonably central would be quite good, dealing with clients on both coasts and everywhere in between. Pretty good flight access out of DIA, middle of the time zones, more or less. So that was kind of some of the practical elements of why we chose Colorado. And then I have lived by the beach my entire life. So I've always lived on the coast. And we thought, hey, we're coming on this adventure. Why don't we try something different? So decided to choose the mountains instead of the coast. It was really weird for me when I first got here, not being around the water. And some people said, oh, go to Boulder Reservoir. It's like really awesome. And I went to Boulder Reservoir and it so wasn't. I'm used to like the best beaches in the world. And this kind of like, man, yeah, it was terrible. So we haven't been back to Boulder Reservoir, but we have really embraced the mountains. It's fair to say my snowboarding has got a whole lot better since I've been living in Colorado. So that's been pretty fun. Let me kick into a little presentation here that we can help with. Zoom always does this when I do a share screen. It makes my video feed of all you people disappear. So let me just see if I can get you guys back to screen. Here we go. That's a whole lot better. Bear with me a tick, team. I'm just going to arrange my screens here so that I can see you guys at the same time as I'm presenting. Yeah, nice. Okay. Does anybody know what that mountain is? No one recognizes it? No one's climbed it? Any mountaineers in the room? No? Okay, I'll give you a clue. It's not in the US. It's not Denali. This is that part of the meeting where it's like when I ask a question, you guys respond. Anyone? Anyone? Any
I'm gonna
guesses?
guess Matterhorn.
Pikes Peak.
Oh, not Matterhorn. Did someone, Daryl, was that Daryl? Someone said Pikes Peak. It's not that either. Go bigger.
Ryan,
Go the biggest.
you do know that Americans are horrible in geography, right? If
Everest.
it's not American, even if it's America, if it's not our coastals, we don't know.
Okay. Okay. Should we start off with who's got a passport? Should we start there? No, let's not.
Yeah.
Okay. It is the tallest mountain in the world, which is
Himalaya.
yeah, in the Himalayas, Mount Everest. So tallest mountain in the world. And I'm going to take a wild guess here that because you didn't know the mountain, I'm going to take a guess that you also don't know who the first person to climb it was. No.
Sir something?
Yes.
Sir Everest. Yeah.
Nice. I feel like Mandy, I feel like it's like right on the tip of your tongue. Is it? I could see you. No, not sure. It's a New Zealander called Sir Edmund Hillary. He was the first person to climb it in 1956. Pretty interesting character. He was a beekeeper of all things in New Zealand. Had done a lot of mountaineering in New Zealand, decided let's go and conquer the world. And I bring this up because I think he showed some pretty epic leadership skills. So he turns up in the Himalayas, starts trying to build a climbing team that he can take up Everest. And the pitch is something like, hey, I'd really like to be the first team in the world to climb Everest. Look, the problem is the last 300 people that have tried have all died. 300 people had died trying to ascend Everest prior to Edmund Hillary doing it. And what he knew was, firstly, I think you've got to have some leadership skills to bring some people together and pursue that. But more importantly, he knew that he was never going to do it himself, right? It was impossible to climb Everest by yourself. You had to have a team, and one of his team was a local called Sherpa Tenzing Norgay, equally deserved of the title of being the first person to climb Everest because he, along with the other Sherpas and the other climbers, they just never would have got there if it hadn't been a team effort. So I think some good demonstrations of leadership and as Kiwis, we like claiming a few firsts around the world. So we're hanging on to the one that we were first to climb Mount Everest. Alrighty. Next up here, I've got a little video for you. I want you to take really close attention and see what you observe in the video, and then I'm going to throw a couple of questions at you afterwards. And just give me a thumbs up that you're getting audio when this starts. Okay, first, have we got any Formula One fans in the house? Yes, Josh, Daryl. Okay, I need to ask, who do you support? Drop.
I grew up a Kimi Räikkönen fan.
Right. Okay. So, do you associate with a particular team now?
Probably McLaren, just because he was so good in McLaren. But I do have a Kimi Ferrari car sitting right back here from his championship year. So
Nice. And Daryl, how about you?
I have watched every race since 1986.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive. Okay. I'm a McLaren guy. As you probably both know, also founded by a Kiwi, Bruce McLaren. So heart goes out to McLaren. Why did I show you that video? when we talk about building culture and building teams, we're talking about building high performance teams. Okay, so I'm not here talking about how do we get the social club together and have a couple of drinks on Friday, you know, when you guys are all knocking off at 1:30. It's about how we build high performance team. Don't get me wrong, some of that social interaction is like really valuable in your organization, but I think high performance teams is what I'm going to be talking about with you guys today, and how you can build a high performance team to allow you to focus on what you need to focus on so you can deliver even more value. I'm interested, when you watch the video, what did you observe? Can someone jump on, give me a couple of insights?
Highly coordinated and uniformed effort. It was like dance. It was like watching a choreographed dance. Everybody knew their steps. Everybody knew their role. You had an entire team. You had like 18 people there to change out 4 tires, but everybody had their move, and everybody's placement was well choreographed.
Well said, Connie. I love that. Anyone want to add into that? Any other observations?
Two things. One, there is a massive level of trust, especially for the front jack guy. Because he's got to trust that the brakes are going to work and he's not going to get hit by the front wing. And then the other one was the communication that happens without them being able to actually talk to each other. So the jack guys know that they need to lift the car together, that the wheels come off so the car doesn't get unbalanced. So there's a ton of communication that happens that's unsaid and unspoken.
Yeah, love that, Josh. Great insights. And how much practice do we think goes into that before they can execute that in 2.4 seconds? A lot, right? You know, that's not the first time they just bowl down to pit lane and go, oh, let's give this a go. I think all the things you talked about, Connie, of getting really clear on what everybody's role is, the coordination, the practice to get it going so you can get to that kind of zone. Alrighty, we'll get insights. Let me go here. So Connie, you mentioned 18 people. Can you all drop in the chat how many you thought there were? $19, $12, $10, $12, $15, $24, $12, $14, $15. Yeah, okay, nice. Our winner today is Ariel. Well done. 24 people, including the driver. Are you just like a really fast counter, Ariel, or have you seen this before?
It was a good guess. I know it was way more than 15 visually, but I didn't count the driver.
Yeah.
Because you want to know, similar to Connie, I was thinking about the people that came from the rear that added on. A lot of people don't think about the people from the back.
Yeah, I was just thinking 4 per tire and plus 1 in the front, 1 in the back. But yeah, I guess you need to have reinforcements.
Yeah.
Reinforcements, they have redundancy. The person I've got labeled as 23 is like a spare person. Number 1, there is a spare jack at the rear, so if they get a jack failure, there's someone else there to go in and get it going. So lots of redundancy built into the team as well. Yeah, pretty amazing when you think about the team effort that goes in. Yes, of course, the individual driver and maybe the team principals get lots of accolades, but like all of our organizations, it's a full team effort if we're going to perform at the highest level. Happy to share the pack with you afterwards. We're also recording the call so you can come back to it. But if you like this and want to share with anyone in your team, most happy to do that. Alrighty, I spent some time with Chuck ahead of the presentation today, kind of learning about what's going on for you guys and thinking about where we might be able to address some of the biggest challenges you've got. Now, this is very much in the context of your people and the teams that you lead. Realize that as COOs, you have a broad gambit of things you're trying to bear across and solve, but in the context of the people and your teams, understand you had a good presentation last month around AI, and there was quite a lot of chat about how do we harness AI to be effective. And I'm going to talk a bit about today about how you can use that with your people. Chuck in his intro talked about one of the biggest challenges you guys face is purely time. And the COOs we work with, we see them always trying to balance this, making sure the operational aspects of your business keep running, but trying not to get through another week where you're like, oh, wow, it's just buried in a whole lot of operational detail for a week, and I didn't get to the strategic. You know, you've had those meetings with the CEO and maybe your boards, etc., and you're like, these are the strategic initiatives we need to get executed, but you're constantly under pressure to how you get in and execute those, given the operational element. I'm curious, maybe just with a show of hands, is this a kind of constant struggle for you guys to spend the time on the strategic? Yeah. Okay. All right. Correct. Culture, you know, again, referring to the how do we build a high performance culture is where we're at, and particularly how do we do it while we're scaling. I'm curious to, maybe you could drop this in the chat for me. What mode would you consider your organizations to be in? Are you in survival mode, which is kind of like, look, we're not really trying to grow, we're just trying to hold on to what we've got? Are you in growth mode where there's lots of ambition to grow the organization? Maybe some of you are in hyper growth where you're scaling really quickly. Just give me a bit of feedback in the chat there. Growth seems to be Stephen, you're in hyper growth. Awesome. Okay. Look, that resonates. People who join organizations like COO Forum are here because you're trying to grow yourselves and grow your organization. So great. We're going to talk about how you sustain this in a growth mode, and sustaining culture while you're growing is an even harder thing to do. Yeah. So we'll talk about that. A players, how do you retrain and grow them? I'd like you to do this. I'd like you to write down one person in your team who's an absolute A player that you just know you need to maintain in your team to keep them, to keep your team performing at its level. Who's that person for you? And then I'd like you to think of two others in your team that are, maybe they're not quite A players just yet, but you think they've got that potential to get to A players, and you know that if you got them to A player status, we'd get this like exponential result in the performance of the team. Who are those two people for you? I'm not going to ask you to share. It's very much about getting some context. So as we go through the discussion today, you can think about those people in the context of what you're trying to do. Oh, nice. Kind of like that. Hiring 2 more A players. Awesome. And then look, productivity, I think it's a term that's always reasonably top of mind for a COO. How do we continue to get more productivity? And a common thing I see in organizations that are in growth mode is the organization going, hey, we really, really want to grow. We want to get heaps bigger, but we don't want to have to put a whole lot more resource into it. So there can be this mismatch between, you know, the aspirations for the growth and the resources available to do it. So the only way you can do that is by growing, utilizing the resources you've got more effectively. Does that kind of list of 5, you know, this came from discussions between Chuck and I, but do they resonate with the group? Maybe you can just give me a thumbs up on camera if that works. Yeah, nice.
Ryan, I have a question. Any thoughts around our hesitancy for your second question? I don't know if other people experienced how hard it was to choose 2 people that we could groom to become A players. Do you have any thoughts around that?
So just say that to me again. So in regard to the A players, what was the question?
Right. So it was easy for me to put an A player in, challenging to identify 2 people who are potential to be A players. You have any feedback around that?
Lots. I think a good place to start would be to go, what is it that makes you A player? What qualities, capabilities, how do they show up? What attitude do they bring? What contribution do they make outside of their core role? You know, kind of looking at those kind of aspects of your A player, and then going, what my 2 that I want to make A players, which of those boxes are they already ticking, and where do they need some development? And it would help you to start identifying how you might be able to grow their capability to step into that A player role. Also very happy for anyone else on the call who thinks they can help with that response as well. Who else has grown someone from a maybe a B player into an A? What did you do?
I had one of those where he was just so prior to me being there, the CEO was kind of managing operations, which is never a good fit. And as with every typical CEO, she's all over the place and can't speak in complete and full sentences and bouncing and whiplash. And so the team was suffering from direction, clear communication, and consistency in how we're going to execute. So when I stepped in, the individual I'm thinking about was, deemed like a B, maybe B minus player. And I had a one-on-one with him. He had some great ideas. He had a strategy. It's just that he wasn't aggressive enough to cut the CEO off and interject his thoughts. He was more passive and just kind of took it all in. And so I gave that feedback back to the CEO and said, how about you just listen in the next meeting? And I'm going to, kind of guide. And we had a structure, we had an agenda, I published it up in advance, and I just asked him, okay, so walk us through this. Great, walk us through that. And he was able to shine. So he just needed, a little sunshine and water, and he sprouted right up.
Yeah. Thanks, Connie. Appreciate your share there. And I've got something coming up in the pack, which I'll talk to about really importance of the understanding of styles that different people have, and how if you understand their style, you can really help them grow and develop. Okay.
Kat had a question.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna comment a quick thing is making sure that the person's talent is lined up with their actual job, because I had somebody that their aspirations was to do one job, but their talent wasn't quite there. The minute that we shifted, it was a lot of conversation. The minute we shifted, A player completely, and the person's happy, the career, everything is just lined up. But when there's a mismatch of talent and roles, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, good insight, Kat. It can be a real discovery trying to figure that out, because people can be shaped very early on, family environments. Hey, everyone in this family's always been this kind of role and this kind of job, so we'd like you to be, it's the generational doctor family, and the expectation is the next person's going to be a doctor and go to med school and do their thing, and they just don't have the passion for it. And exactly as you've said there, Kat, they find their calling, and suddenly their world is gold, and they're an A player because they've aligned talent with passion. Thanks for sharing their team. All right, does anybody know this guy? He's not a New Zealander, if that's helpful. I feel like some of you might have come across him in college. His name is Peter Drucker. He's known as the godfather of management, if you like. So he's been around a while, but he has a saying that's pretty famous: "Culture eats." Anyone know how to finish that one?
Strategy for breakfast.
Yeah, nice. Okay, why is that?
Because it's true. You'll have an uproar if and your strategy you have no one to execute if you don't if you don't manage the culture of your people. If you have toxic culture where politics rule and not objectives and results, then guess what? You're gonna get politics, and politics only works in government when there is no bottom line results, no unified objective, when you're managing 20 different competing agendas. But that doesn't work in business.
Yep, so true. And culture's one of these fascinating things, right? We can sense a culture of an organization the moment we walk in the door. We don't need a survey. We don't need to talk to 20 people. We can actually sense it. And I think a really good example of this in Boulder here, we obviously have a few different supermarkets. Go into Safeway, and I can just tell the culture is terrible. Like, you can just sense it in the energy of the employees and the staff. By comparison, you go to Trader Joe's, and you can just feel the whole energy of the store, the culture, how people help each other, help team members, help customers, and you can just sense that their culture is really strong. Here's our challenge I see often is that we all go, hey, having a great culture would be awesome. Question is, how deliberate are we in shaping our cultures? Maybe drop in your chat, what do you think on your a scale of 1 to 10? 1 is like, we don't do anything, we just hope it evolves. 10, we're very, very deliberate about the way we guide and shape our culture. You can't imprint it, you can only guide it and shape it, but how deliberate are you, do you think, currently in the way you shape your culture? 15 out of 10, way to go, Mandy. Yeah, good. I like that. Nice, kind of good awareness. Okay. So the CFOs, and I know we're on a COO call, but CFOs are always like, what, you want to spend money on developing the culture? Does it actually work? Is there ROI? The most comprehensive study ever done into organizations developing a intentional performance culture versus not was done by Cotter and Heskett. It was a 10-year study. They so nice longitudinal data. They studied 12 organizations that were very focused on developing a performance culture and 12 that weren't at all. And over the 10 years, and bear in mind that this was in large organizations, right? So Fortune 500 companies. But over the 10-year period, those were the differences in performance at a financial level for organizations that are really focused on their performance culture. I thought they were pretty compelling stats. So if your CFO's ever putting the kibosh on helping you shape the culture, share this slide with them. Okay. I'd like to share a bit of McKinsey research, which I found fascinating. And it was really shaped around why do employees leave organizations? And the insight, of course, is, well, if we understand why they might leave, we can probably understand why we could help them stay. And if they stay, how do we help them be high performers, right? So what they did is they went out, researched a whole lot of different organizations, and they spoke to the employers, the leaders in these organizations, and said, why do you think people are leaving your organization? And then separately spoke to the employees that had chosen to depart and getting insights around why they were departing. So I want you to have a look at this list, and let's start off by doing the employer or the senior leader view. Drop 3 of those into the chat. Why do you think the senior leaders, employers in these organizations thought people were leaving? Thanks, Anna. Yep, Mandy, you're right. All right, nice. Manager, dollars advancement. Yep. Thanks, Mike. Okay. And if you were to flip that around and go, that's why the senior leaders thought people were leaving, what do you think the actual employees that had chosen to depart, what reasons were they choosing? Are they the same? Do you think they might have been different? Yes. Alrighty, here comes the big reveal. This is what the employees thought. They were looking for more money, better jobs, better titles, those kind of things, and health issues that they were dealing with. These were the top 3 that came out why employers thought people were leaving their organizations. And this is why they were actually leaving. Oh, sorry, guys. I might have skipped a slide there. Did you see that one? Yeah. Cool. And this is why people were actually leaving. These are the top 3 reasons. Didn't feel valued by the organization, didn't feel valued by their manager, and didn't feel a sense of belonging in the organization. Who's managing hybrid work teams? Anyone got hybrid work teams? Like remote working and kind of thing? Yeah. Okay. Our job just got a whole lot harder. with that advent, right? Of course, it allows us access to talent and a whole lot of upsides of hybrid working, but actually managing them, giving people a sense of belonging, so much harder when you can't do the personal interaction. So if you think about what the employers, the leaders, were observing, they thought it was dollars, job titles, and health issues. How do you think they set about solving their retention issues? Let's pay people more. Let's give them some better job titles or a path to another job title and health. You know, maybe we get some fruit bowls and gym memberships going. You know, let's see if that solves the problem. Yeah, and people are looking for value and a sense of belonging from their organization. So people join organizations and leave managers. Yeah, love what the organization stands for, don't get the vibe. Gallup's research suggests that 70% of people that leave an organization cite their manager as a key role of why they leave. Okay. Yep, all right, I agree. Alignment with vision is important. I'm going to talk to that as well. So we think managers build culture from the middle out. As an extreme example, Walmart. Who knows how many people roughly Walmart employs? Any guesses? $1.5. Yep. Yeah, 2 million. Oh, Daryl, pretty close. 2.3 million employees. How much time do you think the average Walmart employees gets to spend with the Walmart CEO? Not much, right? They might do a store visit occasionally. 0. Yeah, exactly. So as senior leaders in our business, we can help shape the culture, but we don't get to do it with every person every single day. So your managers are your mouthpiece to your organization, and they shape the culture. So you think if you have managers that have good capability, good understanding of what you're trying to achieve, good alignment with vision and mission for the organization, they are the people that make their people, their team members feel valued and aligned with the organization. Okay, I'm going to dive into 9 ways that I think you can help shape this. Some of them you can implement today, some of them might take a little longer, but I'm going to run with 9 ways that we can actually shape this high performance culture. My first one is measure contribution, not engagement. Who runs engagement surveys, scores in their business? Anyone do that? Okay, not too many of you. Look, I think Silicon Valley's got a lot to answer for. I think they broke engagement and they shifted the pendulum all the way across to the employee, to the point that employees now go, how are you going to keep me engaged? What are you as an organization going to do to keep me engaged? And I just think that just doesn't work. It's got to be a organization and employee approach, right? Everyone's got to be coming to the table to see how we build it. So we think contribution is a much more relevant measure. Engagement, we saw Silicon Valley bring in ping pong tables and kombucha and massages and gym memberships and all these kind of things. Those things don't build deep engagement. The stats would suggest that less than 15% of people are fully engaged in work. It is terrible. Less than 15% fully engaged. So how do we get to a zone that's actually going to build? So we would say measure contribution. We've built a tool around how you can measure contribution rather than engagement, and it's a much more balanced view. It has 8 key questions in it. If you'd like access to that tool or to we've got a white paper around that. If anyone wants that, maybe just write contribution in the chat, and I'll make sure I get that to you afterwards.
Hey, Ryan, we lost your audio.
How about now?
Perfect.
We good now? Sorry. Thanks, Chuck. I was wondering why everyone was looking so blankly at me. I might just back out the track. Who's using scrums in their organization? Scrums or huddles, fast meetings, 15 minutes a day with your team. Anyone using those? Mandy, you are. Andrew, you are. Great. Josh, okay. Mandy, can you just talk us through how you use them and kind of what framework you use for your scrums huddles?
We do it once a week. We don't do it daily, but there's a little bit of a growth and development message. But then it's also get together and, since we're fully remote, talk about fantasy football or other personal things, just to kind of stay in touch personally with everybody. So.
Yep. Okay. Kind of value. I like that. I think Andrew, were you also doing scrums?
Yeah, daily run through priorities, kind of what worked, what didn't work, actions for today, and then light touch on anything at a soft point that's messing with people.
Right. And do you do that, Andrew, just with your immediate team, or are these happening across the organization and various teams?
I do my immediate team weekly, but across the organization happens daily. So we take all the key contributors, get them together on a daily 15 minutes and just run through and make sure everything is aligned.
Love it. And how effective do you think they are?
They're good now. They used to be, it took us a long time to get the riffraff and the rubbish out of it, to get it focused on what's going on. And because a lot of people felt the need to justify why things were not done and why there were problems and who was at fault, and it wasn't them and it was the vendor and all that sort of stuff. Getting them to focus on, it didn't work, this is where I got stuck, this is what I'm doing next, and somebody stepping in to help made a big difference. Also, most importantly, it helped make sure that there was no interpreted priorities, that priorities are very, very clear, because we're working with scientists, engineers, and software developers, and all three of those personas by themselves go to in La La Land by themselves, put them all together, and it's, I mean, you're providing the mushroom and the weed for their own La La Lands. So getting them to hone in and stay focused on priorities was really important.
Awesome. Thank you. Such quality feedback. And I think that's the experience for most people when they first introduce scrums or huddles, is that they're a bit of a shambles. Everyone's trying to do the justify, etc. The framework we suggest is, what was your number one contribution yesterday? And again, that focus on the word contribution. Sometimes the biggest contribution might be, hey, I noticed Chuck was a little off form yesterday. I just went and spent 10 minutes with him to find out what was going on with him and check in and see if he's okay. That could be the very best contribution you make, or it might be the number one thing you had on your to-do list, right? But keep it focused on the contribution. What is your number one for today? Not the, oh, I'm so busy and I've got like these 26 things and I'm going to, no. One thing. We get that you've got lots to do and that everyone's busy. What's the one thing that you're going to absolutely nail today? It might be that one really important phone call that's going to take 5 minutes. It might be taking half an hour out to do some thinking about one of the key issues you've got going on. So you go, how do we root cause analysis this and get some resolution so this problem doesn't keep coming up? And then as Andrew mentioned, how are you blocked? I think as senior leaders in your organizations, you might find that quite often your people are blocked because of access to you. And it's not that you don't have availability, but there are all sorts of things going on. People are like, oh, look, I really want to talk to Chuck, but he just seems so busy and he seems to have so much on his plate. If someone in a scrum can go, Chuck, I need you for 5 minutes so I can talk through some options and help me decide on the solution we're selecting. You just keep things moving through your organization really quickly. So super valuable. Your leaders, anyone that's, when I say a leader, they could have direct reports, they could be leading projects, they could be engaged with vendors or suppliers or clients. So anyone who's takes on somewhat of a leadership role, you've got to get them into this mindset of stop reacting and start leading. And it's very much a mindset shift. If you think about the path for most leaders, they have worked their way into a leadership role because they've been really good at a job. Technically strong, functionally strong, right? When you're in a technical functional role, how do you solve things? You typically solve it by doing the work, right? As a leader, you've got to start thinking about how do other people solve this challenge? How is there a different way we could solve this challenge? And we had some great examples of this. We did some active versus reactive training at they're about a 600-person construction company in Iowa last week. Immediately after that training, we heard some awesome feedback. One of the crews on site needed a piece of equipment. The manager at head office, his normal response would be grab the piece of equipment, jump in his truck, drive the hour to the site to drop it off. After going his active versus reactive training, he's like, is there a better way to solve this? And they have all their crew vehicles tracked with GPS. So he was able to go into the GPS, see that there was another crew only like 10 minutes down the road from where that crew that needed the equipment was, called them, do you have this equipment? Yes, can you drop it off? Great. So solved the problem and also saved himself probably 2 to 3 hours of work, how he would normally have solved it by normally just being super reactive. They needed to go give it to them. Okay, how do we solve this problem differently? So getting people into that active versus reactive mindset. Who's ever got to the end of a day and gone, there is nothing more I could do. Everything on my list is done. I'm all sorted. No, nothing left to do. Anyone had that one? No, it doesn't happen, does it? So let's acknowledge that there will always be more to do than there is time to do it in. So let's get really good at planning our capacity. Let's identify what the high value work is, aligning those priorities, and that's where Scrum is the communication tool for aligning priorities. But use a specific framework for yourself and within your team to identify what those priorities are, so we make sure we get the right stuff done. Because we can all be busy. We can all be busy. Does anyone use a particular planning framework themselves or within their team to help identify priorities they could share?
Well, we just use the classic project management. So we have project management plans for basically every initiative, as well as our service delivery. And I'm trying to reinforce our 12-week capacity planning and manage that religiously to the actuals and refresh every single week. So we're working on it. I'm trying to drive we are currently at a reactive culture, and I'm trying to drive that to a proactive and data-driven culture. So
nice. And I like the 12-week capacity planning cycle. I think that kind of annual planning to get really clear on the high-level goals for the organization for the year, and then dropping it down into quarterly cycles so you know how you're going to execute against those quarterly cycles. And then I'm a fan of the kind of weekly senior lead team meetings that are identifying how on track are we with the action through this quarter to get it done. Love that. Thanks, Connie. Appreciate the share. Okay, this is the most valuable management leadership tool that I have been exposed to. It shapes my interaction with my team every single day. Now, it's called the business chemistry of teams. It's used a lot by Deloitte, but we really like it because it's quite a simple model. And it's it's similar to DISC or Myers-Briggs or any of those kind of other tools that you might have come across. I'm sure everyone at some point in their careers had some kind of like profiling work done. We like this one because it's simple. The problem I see with lots of the other profiling tools is they're great when you're reading your 20-page report on what it says about you, but 7 weeks later when you're in a meeting, you're like, oh, what am I again? Am I E, I, G, T, N? I don't remember what that is. So let me quickly explain these because I use this in every interaction I have with my team. Broadly, people fall into 4 key styles. They tend to have a primary and a secondary. So pioneers are our big picture thinkers, future thinkers, blue sky. They're the people that turn up every week with another 5 ideas of what we could do. They're those people. Our drivers are okay, team, let's go. We've got lots to get done this week. Let's crack it out. What's standing in your way? Let's make it happen. Those are your kind of driver vibes. Guardians are our high detail people. Very, very good at methodical execution of process. Think about the detail a lot. Would be very open to going, here's the, maybe if I lean into what you were talking about, Connie, here's the project plan that we've got. It's got these 842 steps in it. I'm going to go and nail each one of those 842 steps sequentially. And then our integrators are our people. They tend to be very in tune with what's going on in the organization. They will be the ones that are noticing that, you know, Chuck's a bit off today. Maybe I need to go and check in with them. They're that person that always seems to know what's going on in the office. You're like, man, there's that person, right? That always knows. They're our integrators. So the reason that there is opposing arrows is that typically our pioneers and our guardians struggle to communicate, because our pioneers are like, yeah, don't worry about the detail. We're going to go and conquer the world. It's going to be awesome. Follow me. And our guardians are like, hey, look, I'm kind of up for following you, but you need to be able to explain to me how we're going to get there. Are we turning right at the end of the first road or left at the end of the first road, right? So as if you're a pioneer, when you're meeting with your people and you understand the different styles you've got in the room, you can shape your communication, right? You don't have to lay out all 847 steps in the meeting. Just acknowledge that, hey, team, we're going to have to work together. There's going to be a lot of different steps and detail we need to work through. Hey, Janet, you're amazing with this. I'd really like your help on the project team with that. How does Janet feel? Janet feels super engaged. She feels valued. I've just acknowledged her strengths. Whereas if I just blow over the top of the detail required in the project, Janet's going to be freaking out. So in that very brief explanation, of course, there's we have a tool that you can use to identify in detail, but which of these styles do you think is your primary? Interesting. So many integrators. I'm genuinely fascinated. I thought in our the roles that you have as COOs, I would see some more driver personality types in there. So what we need to do is we need to now do this with your team and see what they think you are. So I talked a little bit about the pioneer guardian. What do you think the interaction needs to be between integrator and driver? Connie, so true. I was trying to say that politely. If I'm an integrator and I've got a driver in the room or vice versa, how might I adjust my communication style?
Say that again.
If I'm in a meeting and let's say I'm a driver and I've got an integrator in the room, how might I adjust my communication style?
It's just, coming from a point of curiosity. You can still drive. It's just how you message it. It's, oh, that's really interesting. Help me understand. I think what you said was really important. I never would have thought of that. That's code for, that is so fucking stupid. I've never heard that before, but, please entertain me, right? Help me understand. It's very powerful. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I never would have came up with that scenario.
Yeah.
Or,
and if you can deliver that message without your face saying, I think you're an idiot, then I think that's a good combo.
It's key. It's key. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that, Connie. I'm a driver. So what I've learned to do is when I come to a meeting initially is treat people as humans before we get into the what are we going to get done this week zone, right? Like learn to ask about the weekend, ask about the fantasy football, whatever it might be relevant for you and your team. Like actually integrators want to be treated as humans. Treat me as a human first, and then I'll do whatever you'd like me to do to lean in and help the team out. So I think this is super powerful. Again, happy to share a tool that we've got that can help you self-assess and share that with your team, get a bit of insight. Can share that with you as well. Okay, maybe just a final question on this. Has anyone done team profiling with their immediate team, the people that you lead? And yep, can just give me a quick shout out. What tools have you used and how useful have you found them?
We've used Disc.
Yes. Okay. Yep. And Diana, how have you found the insights you've got from Disc? How have you found that's helped you shape the way you lead the team?
Yeah, they don't have the greatest dashboard for results after, but just the ability to run the reports to people against each other, it has been really, really helpful. I just emailed this morning, actually. Can you send me, the person who manages, can you send me the report for me and so-and-so?
Right. Right. Awesome. Yeah, you can shape the communication with that person. Love that. Cloverleaf's been open. Oh yeah, I think Chuck, you guys have a relationship with Cloverleaf. Do I recall that correctly? Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So look, our view is which tool you use doesn't matter. It's really the awareness of how different people operate and then how you can shape communication. Just incredible that if you tune into that person's wavelength, how much smoother things can be. Okay.
Ryan, I just wanted to share, and I'm not going to turn this into a gender discussion, but I'm the only woman in the C-suite, so I have to be detailed. That's why I put guardian up there. So I just think depending on the makeup of our teams, we might kind of switch between the different styles.
I think that's very, very, very true. And I mentioned that you tend to have a primary and a secondary style, and your secondary style tends to be on the shoulder of your primary style. So I'm driver pioneer. So driver's my strongest, and then pioneer off to the side. Man, I have to have some people around me that are guardians and integrators for our team to work, right? There is no one style that is better than the other. It's about a rounded team. And that's not to say that I can't do detail. Is it my natural strength? No. If I need to really lean into something and do deep dark, yeah, some of the spreadsheets I've built in my time, the amount of detail in them to get to a solution that we needed, yeah, super deep. So it's not to say that you can't be those other styles. You just tend to have a natural style and a strength. So if you can lean into that, but yeah, your observation is absolutely spot on, Ariel. Thanks for sharing. Okay, leader as coach. How are you going about coaching your people? And my biggest downfall I see around coaching is sessions that are called coaching, but they're really a chat about the to-do list. Oh, what's happening with that supplier? Are we completing that project on time? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the end of the session, people going, oh, we were supposed to do some coaching, weren't we? Oh, let's get it to let's do that next time. Our absolute rule is that if you're going to do a coaching session, it's only coaching. There is nothing else on the agenda. How long do you guys think a coaching session could be and still be super effective? Or maybe how short is a better way to term that? How short can a coaching session be and still be super effective? Drop that in the chat for me. How long? Nice. 5, 30, 15, 45, 15. Yep. Yeah, you guys are on the money. We prescribe 15 minutes. There's a really clear guide rails around how the coaching session will proceed. People know in advance of the session what the topic's going to be, how it's going to work. We give our leaders that are doing the coaching a playbook on how to run those coaching sessions, and they can be super effective in 15 minutes. I think the other thing we observe around our coaching sessions, if you keep them to 15 minutes, they happen. Even when you've got a really busy week and you've got a lot going on, if you've got a 15-minute coaching session scheduled, you can still make it happen. If they're an hour, you're like, oh, wow, we're really slammed this week. Can we do it next week, please? And things just keep slipping. We find that 15-minute zone is really, really powerful. When I when I mention the word coach, what comes to mind for you? Anyone open to sharing? Chuck, how about you?
I often think of coaching having a negative connotation, at least early in my career, like I was doing something wrong, so I needed to be coached. Whereas I think my views of that have changed now, as it's actually a strengthening and building tool.
Yep. Totally. And have you observed a reluctance for people to move into a coaching role as a coach? And if so, why do you think they're reluctant? Thanks, Natalie.
I think it all starts with how you frame it. So whenever we talk about coaching the organization, we always refer to it as coaching for peak performance, and start from that sort of positive perspective on it, so that we get away from it. We're also tend to stay away from mentoring. Like, there's a strong distinction between mentoring and coaching. And so I think that's another part of it, is when you mentoring blurs the lines because it leads the whole job function piece into play, whereas coaching can be much more abstract, and I think in some ways less threatening if you approach it from a positive perspective of, I'm just here to help you unlock the best version of yourself.
Love that, Darryl. Spot on. Very good, good insights. Okay. This is one of the ways we're deploying AI in our leadership training, is with AI virtual coaches. I'm going to show you a quick example of one of the tools that we've built, so you can just get a sense of what that looks like. Before I show that, this is really at the core of how we think about AI, in that it's got to be the combination of human intelligence plus some heart, and then bolstered or supplemented with AI tools to go alongside it. You cannot outsource your people leadership development to AI. It doesn't work. It never will. And if we look back to what was that McKinsey research about why people feel valued, people don't feel valued because you gave them another AI tool. They feel valued because you interact with them as a human, and then use maybe some other tools to complement what's being done. Okay, so let me jump to here. So can you guys see the Dr. Mike coach on screen now? Great. Dr. Mike Ashby is my business partner at the Breakthrough. He does all of our content and program development. I don't know how he does it, but he seems to read about 1,000 things a day. So he's always very up to date on what the latest and greatest is and how it can be utilized. And then has this incredible ability to distill it down to something practical that you can actually use and implement. But this is a AI-powered chatbot that we've built. It is loaded with all of our core content from our training programs. So it's, as I say, it's there to complement. The use of this would be someone that has already done our deep learning in our training programs, and they're now using this as a way to complement what they're doing. So I'll just give you an example. I'd like some advice on a scenario at work, and I might say I have a team member that is always late to work. Yes, I would like to hear more about having a difficult conversation with that person. Okay, so here's the framework from how to hold a difficult conversation that we utilize. Prep for it, set up the meeting, make sure you make some good choices around where to do it, schedule a time, approach the conversation with some I statements and listen actively. You go and get the idea. How I might be able to go, be open to feedback, etc. So good reminder. I've already done the learning around this module, so it's kind of familiar to me, but good reminder. I'd kind of forgotten about that step. Thanks for the reminder. And then I might say, how might the person respond to this conversation? Okay, they might be defensive, they could be apologetic, they could be excuses or justifications. They might, be indifferent, I don't really care. So ahead of the meeting, being able to use this tool to kind of go, let me just get my head in the game. How does this conversation go? How do I structure it? How do I set it up? How might they respond? And if they respond in this way, how might I handle this? And of course, you can keep interacting with the bot and digging deeper and deeper into the things you might want to cover off. But it's that nice combination of being able to access the knowledge that you've already been exposed to, and then give it some specific scenario modeling in the chat as well. I'm curious, how useful would something like that be within your teams or for yourself? Is that not useful, somewhat useful, looks good? What's your vibe there?
So you piqued my interest. We're using we're a Google house and we use Notebook LM, and so no, I can't quite do a chat bot around this, but the chat bot idea works. But I have all my content that I can put into something and have at least this is something I can do quickly. So I got my takeaway from your from my meeting immediately. I'm like, oh, light bulb just went off of how I can, using the tools I already have, get all the content together so managers can ask questions and seek it. It's not going to replace the humans completely, but it's a good idea. It's something to quickly get information to managers, is valuable.
It is. And Kat, Chuck and I were talking ahead of the call about how can COO Forum take all this incredible knowledge they've built over a number of years and then make it accessible to you guys so you can get there. And there are some very, let's call them affordable tools now. We've built our tool chatbot on Zapier. I mentioned Chatbase, which is another tool, and you can very quickly deploy a set of instructions about how you would like that chatbot to operate. You can incorporate your own data and knowledge base into that. You can decide whether that is private, aka the AI large language model can't share your knowledge with anyone else. It's just private to you. You can say whether it utilizes only your knowledge or it's your knowledge base plus the large language model more broadly to supplement. The speed of how this is developing is incredible, and you don't have to be a programmer to figure this out. We've built a number of these now, and there's some things to follow, but they're not difficult to do. Our building out that model for us was probably, I had one of my team do most of the work on it. I would guess in total maybe 20 hours of work, right from design, development, implementation, testing, tweaking, kind of something like that. So pretty valuable tool that we can complement our training with around that. Darren, I'm just reading your chat update here. Can you tell us a bit more about how you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of one of these people that I always have AI open somewhere, and so much of our lives is where we have these 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute transitions from a moment to a moment in our schedule, or we're just constantly 5 minutes late to the next call. And so I'll often use AI to carve out just a minute to just be like, remind me, what are key steps in handling a difficult conversation with an employee, or remind me whatever, and just go in and just get it to basically operate as a reset on my brain to go, right, I need to switch into this mode right now. Therefore, I need to, and it stops me having to sort of dig that out of the recesses of my brain and just helps me pull that information, kind of like Chuck was saying about Googling stuff out of books that he's read in the past. It's like, I know how to do this, but man, is it a great cheat code to be able to bring that knowledge to the surface quickly, as opposed to have to rack my brain and get myself reframed in the right mindset all on my own.
Yeah, good example. I'm on several boards, and I've built a tool that allows me to take the board papers that I get sent for each of my boards and get the chatbot to give me the executive summary and help me shape some questions around what's in the board pack. Does it replace me reading the board pack entirely? No, but does it get me to the guts of what's going on a lot faster? Yeah, sure does. So yeah, it's a good tool as well.
One of my favorite things when you're trying to lock something into your memory a little bit better is if, like, take even a session like this, you go through it and take a deck from it. You know, we all are note takers in this kind of environment, but I like to take something like the deck afterwards, throw it through, say, give me 10 insights out of this, and then A/B them against my own notes, because just that quick process then allows me to put that in a more permanent part of my brain storage for access later.
Love that, Daryl. Thanks for sharing. Really good insights.
I actually have ChatGPT up right now because my next call is with the CEO of a VoIP business, and they've done some integrations, and they're going to need a COO. So I'm talking to him, and I'm looking at my prompt. I need to know all the news on this company. Where is it headquartered? What is the executive team? What are their verticals? Any recent news, major acquisitions, and focus on differentiators in the market and how they compete with AI. And AI gave me, okay, here's where their headquarters, here's the executive team, here's their services and verticals, and then the key part, and then here's their recent acquisitions. And then the next part was, how do you compete with AI? And it basically said, so they're human in the loop. I'm like, okay, so that's good. So they're human in the loop. Out of the 5 verticals, 2 of them have, supplemented with AI, but the other 3 haven't. So I'm like, bingo, that's what I'm going to focus on in my call with the CEO. So it just took that research and, got me right to the guts of, all right, now we're going to, hit, as a CEO once said to me a very long time ago, you got 30 seconds, hit me between the eyes. So that's going to be my between the eyes.
And we talked earlier about productivity. How do we achieve more with the same resource? AI is a great tool to increase our productivity. If you had to go and do that research old style, old style being Google, having to actually go to each of the sites and kind of read it yourself. I mean, it would have been probably at least 2 hours of effort, right? At least. There it is, right there for you. Ariel, thanks for your contributions. So you have to drop off. Thanks. I think we've got 15 minutes remaining in total, Chuck. So I'm going to get this wrapped up in the next kind of like 5 to 10 and leave 5 at the end. Who's the person I've got on screen? Does anyone recognize that individual? Started in the Marine Corps, dropped out of the Marine Corps and went to Africa and taught math to kids in Swaziland for a few years. And then came back and started a business called Netflix. So his name's Reed Hastings. And I love this quote. I see a few nods going on, fast like image flashbacks to when there was that person in the team who had like incredible knowledge or was also hitting the sales numbers or was really high output at something, but was just a total jerk. And they are culture crushers. Do not tolerate them. So in light of that, have difficult conversations early, use a framework so you know how to shape that conversation and do it with compassion. I think we've seen numerous examples of when people have been observed to have a negative nature or something going on. And when you actually approach conversation with compassion and find out what's really going on for that person, actually they feel valued. You can come up with a solution really, really quickly. The example that comes to mind is we were working with a large electrical manufacturer. They did like switchboards for hotels and telecoms exchanges, etc. And they actually had that situation that I used before of someone that was constantly late to work. And, one of the senior lead team was like, fire them, not good enough, not living up to the values of our organization, get rid of them. Turns out when they had an open conversation was that the individual's partner was going through cancer treatment. He was trying to support her. He'd also taken on the role of primary caregiver for the children. So he's doing lunches and school drop-offs and all those kind of things. And it just meant that given his schedule, he just couldn't make it to work on time. Now, He hadn't asked for any help. He hadn't put his hand up because he was reluctant to. He didn't want to make it a thing. But after a conversation with that person, which felt like a difficult conversation in the first place, they were actually able to reshape his schedule, give support to him and to his partner. And how do you think that person felt? They felt valued by the organization, valued by the manager, would crawl over broken glass for the organization going forward because of what they'd done to support them in that time. So I think the compassion bit around your difficult conversations is super important. We mentioned this one earlier, alignment with vision, values, and purpose. You will be sick of talking about these things long before your people hear it. You'll be sick of saying these things long before your people hear it, right? As senior leaders, we tend to spend a good amount of time around these things, thinking about how they work. We're often in the meetings where they get shaped at a senior leadership executive level. So we're very, very in tune. So repeat them often and use them as examples as often as you can. I think scrums are a great place to bring this in. When someone talks about a contribution that they've made, if you can find a way to align it to your values or the vision or purpose of the business, A+, keep that one going. Okay. Great leaders don't create followers. They create more great leaders. What are you doing as the leaders in your business to create more great leaders? If you don't want a pack of followers, your organizations will be constrained if you can't develop more leaders in your business. So the how is you've got to have a system of how you build your leaders. I really dislike workshops. Who's been to a workshop on anything, doesn't have to be around leadership training, gone, hey, workshop was great, felt really engaged, person gave me heaps of info, and then 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh, I remember the donuts were good, and I remember the presenter was wearing a blue blazer. Oh, I can't remember what we talked about though, and I sure as hell haven't implemented anything. Anyone else had that experience? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So if you're going to have a system around training your people, have a system that only 10% of the development is the content. So that's the how do we do these skills? How do we develop them? 20% should be social. So that should be things like supported by coaching in your organization, having peers in your organization that are learning the same skills at the same time so they can actually deepen the experience of learning by interacting with their peers. And then 70% of it needs to be the practice every single day. And I kind of like this thought about when an athlete is trying to get better, and it doesn't matter whether it's strength training, long distance running, whatever it might be. What this cycle tends to look like is an expert puts together a program for them because they've got a lot of knowledge about how to develop that skill very effectively. They get the athlete to start practicing that. And it might be like, oh, this week we're going to practice this skill, but next week we're going to practice that skill. If I gave it a gym example, it might be, hey, today we're doing biceps and lats, right? Tomorrow we're doing quads and chest. So bringing together the different skills you need to build overall. You can't do biceps only in the gym and hope that your legs are going to improve their strength as well. I know a few of us guys do try to just do biceps and hope that it'll all work out, but doesn't tend to. Get some feedback from your coach. So if I continue with the gym, it might be like, okay, could you get through that rep scheme that I set for you? Could you do 3 sets of 10 at that weight? If not, okay, let's adjust it. Okay, I think we need some work on your technique. You're flaring your elbows out when you're doing your lift. You need to keep your elbows in. So getting that coach feedback. Doing it with others is always more, for most people, more valuable. So there's the community, the sense of belonging that we get when we're training with other people. And then I put in SUPs as an example of how you can just like add in as in supplements vitamins. You might add in some of these other things to help with your training. And I think it's a good way when you're thinking about developing your leaders to do it in the same way. So get an expert program around how it works, make sure there's plenty of practice involved, be a coach in your own organizations, because the very best people to coach are you. Me coming into your organization from the outside and coaching, I don't have the context for your business. I don't know what you're focused on. I don't know your visions, your values, your purpose, your strategic priorities. I don't know any of that stuff. So you guys make the very best coaches. Get your people learning together. They will develop a language that becomes part of how you operate and builds your culture, and then supplement it with tools like AI and other tools that we have available as well. So hope that analogy helps to kind of cement how we think about training your leaders in the context. So let's do a quick recap. Building a high performance culture, there is no doubt that it delivers value to your organization. It feels like a better place to work. The financial performance and productivity will go up. Really think about how you can grow those managers that you have. If you've got some A players, make sure you invest in their development to keep them growing as an A player, because A players tend to run out of, or they tend to get bored quickly because of the way they are. So get them going. And think about how you can get those other couple of players in there as going. Most approaches to training leaders we think are broken. One-day workshops don't work. And really think about how you can train people in skills, but really what you're trying to do is grow their awareness. Okay, because it's at the awareness zone that you get to make great decisions and really influence people. And then measure the right things. So, measure things like contribution rather than engagement. Alrighty. Chuck, shall I hand back to you at that point? I know we've got kind of like five minutes to go.
Yeah, I absolutely, Ryan. And just before we wrap up, I think one of the key takeaways in when I was listening to all of this, and of course I've had the opportunity to peek under the hood at the Breakthrough Company, but I think all of us on this call feel like, okay, this is something else that we have to do, like these 9 things. And our time is short. I think the valuable message here is that we have an amazing middle management or leadership teams that report to us. They actually should be doing this, but it always feels like us at the COO level, we feel like, we're the ones that have to implement all of this. And so we put all of that pressure on ourselves. We've got to change the culture. We've got to create more A players. We have to do, we have to do this, but we have a much larger management team below us that I think is the missing piece that we don't take advantage of enough. So, and I know what the Breakthrough Company does and how you target training to actually create more A players within an organization, so that we all on this call don't have to be the only person in the organization that's trying to bring, this thinking and trying to create more A players. Actually, I think we're missing the opportunity within our middle management team. So I just wanted to just make that comment for those of you on the call, is that we don't have to bear all of this ourselves. So we have a valuable team that we can relate to. So I just wanted to throw that back to you, Ryan, just to get a quick thought or two on that before we wrap up.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate that. Team, I've just dropped in the chat a quick link if you want a couple of the resources I mentioned, fast feedback on the pre's, or if you'd like me to do a session with you to think about how you can shape your people. It's not a sales pitch. We literally consult with organizations, and we can work out a deal for you guys as COO Forum members to make that effective. So if you'd like to spend some time with me individually thinking about how you can create more high performing teams in your organizations, would be very open to that. So just jump in that link and give me a quick bit of feedback.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. And all of you on the call, if you would please, just a quick round of applause for Ryan. Thank you so much, Ryan, for taking time out from Colorado to be with us all on the call today. Thank all of our members and guests to take time out from your busy schedule to be here as well. So much appreciated. And thank you for being wonderful members. Happy Valentine's Day. Don't forget our executive session coming up on the 21st, Josh?
Yes. Yeah, it's next Friday.
21st. So don't miss out on Josh in that. And then next month's presentation is by Nick Wellham, who is our Detroit chapter director on exit planning. So that should be fun in March. I think that's it. Did I cover everything?
Nice work. Hey, thanks, Chuck. And
Thanks, everybody.
Really appreciate being able to talk with you and love the interaction. Thanks, team.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ryan. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks.